Welcome. I'm Janelle Kolaski, a career mindset coach and actor.
And I'm Amanda Dubois, a self-authenticity and prosperity life coach and actor as well. And we're your co-host of Mindset Artistry YouTube channel,
where we teach you the art of discovering and using your mindset
to build a career and life you desire.
Hello, welcome back to another episode of Mindset Artistry. We are so excited to have another wonderful guest. We have Joanna Levinger. She's a casting director based out of New York City. She began her entertainment career over 10 years ago at Binder Casting before moving into film and television, where she's been ever since. She's been honored to work with the top industry casting directors such as Julie Schubert, Miscia, Rosalie Joseph, Jessica Daniels, Tara Rubin, and Meredith Tucker. Some of her previous credits include White House Plumbers, Tulsa King, Godfather of Harlem, Harlem's Kitchen, Emergence, Masters of Doom, all those are pilots, Marvel's Iron Fist, Luke Cage, The Defenders, Jessica Jones, David Fincher's Mindhunter, and feature films Here Today, Nights Comes On, and Susie Searches. And she recently cast Don Toliver's visual album, Love Sick. Woo, you've been busy.
Yes.
Yes. And I love, it's so neat. Mindhunter was filmed in Pittsburgh and I grew up around there. So,
oh my God, amazing.
Yeah, it was neat to watch. I'm like, oh my gosh, I've been there. And I went in a lot for dance and everything. And it's funny, they also filmed A League of Their Own in like my small hometown.
Oh my God.
Like, I was like, why did I leave Pittsburgh? No.
Do your parents still live there? You could always say, be back future seasons.
That's what I said. I was like, I'm totally a local hire, like legit. But anyway, we have so many questions for you. First of all, what we always love to ask is, how did you get into casting? What attracted you to that?
So yeah, I started out as a performer. I went to college. My major was performing arts. I went to a small liberal arts school in New York. And I, wanted to be an actor all through college. And I sort of graduated sort of having finally heard about casting. I didn't know what it was, really. I didn't know what it was as a career. But I think I had seen maybe Every Little Step, which was a documentary made about the chorus line casting process. And I had never seen a full documentary like that. About the audition process, everything. So that was really cool to see. So I think that sort of started my spark of hearing about casting. And then I spent about a year trying to, working as a professional actor, if you will, and also had about 1 million survival jobs and was juggling everything. And one of my survival jobs was a babysitter, as a lot of us do when we're first out of college. And the person I was working for, I told her I was interested in casting. And she said, oh, I happen to have a friend, a fellow mom from the neighborhood. She's also a casting director. Let me connect the two of you. We went to coffee, lunch, and she was like, great, I'm about to start Warner Brothers pilot season in a few weeks. Do you want to be one of the interns? And I said, absolutely. By that time, I already knew that I didn't want to be a performer professionally anymore. And I had started doing internships. I did an internship at a theater general management company called Richards Kleiman. Got to work on Porgy and Bess and Glengarry Glen Ross and really great stuff on Broadway. So I already knew my life in entertainment would be beyond being an actor. And then once I got connected with her, Mikey Heilbrunn, a wonderful casting director. She saw that I had a real passion for casting and that I wanted to learn more. And then she really, opened up a lot of opportunities for me, let me stay late. I learned about auditions. I was a reader in the audition room, so I was seeing it up close. We were putting out appointments. And then after that, I immediately got my first, paying job as a casting assistant at Binder Casting, which is where I stayed and learned about everything Broadway, off-Broadway, regional theater for the next 3 years before then leaving to go into TV and film.
Well, that's incredible. I mean, I'm impressed by that. I think I'm like, I should have done more when I was
No. Everyone finds their own path. They get to it when they're supposed to get to it. And it just happened for me very early. And it was just a timing, luck, perseverance, all wrapped into one.
I love that. I think that's a great lesson for anyone, honestly, in the industry, because we put our blinders on as creatives and performers and storytellers, and we are stuck on one aspect of our career. Like, I want to be a TV actor, or I want to be a film actor, or I want to be, in commercials of voiceovers, and you streamline your vision and you can actually potentially get rid of opportunities that can propel you in a different way, that brings you more joy, that will get you to where you got to go, probably even faster, but not in the way that you expected. So it was a great lesson, and I hope someone out there really pays attention to that and understands that you don't have to limit yourself in this industry. And listen to yourself. Like, because Joanna said, she realized after all these internships and jobs that casting was way more of a fit for her and for her joy. What is the most fun aspect of your job as a casting director?
I think it is really, for me specifically, it's like going to that table read. It's seeing everyone go from their auditions to there now. And I think also because I come from like a live theater world, like something like a table read is really exciting to me, because that's sort of the live theatrical moment that you have with everyone, and just seeing how the collaborative process starts, how people play off of each other. Oftentimes, like, you don't really do that many chemistry reads. Maybe you have some chemistry reads here and there, but you could have two main characters, they're interacting with each other for the first time at a table read. So I just love seeing it come to life. And then, of course, the next favorite thing is watching my work back, seeing it on TV or in the theater. I think the fact that we have this tangible, fun thing that we get at the end of our job, like the fact that we have project-based work, that we have this cool thing that is made afterwards, I think is really wonderful. And other than that, just really having someone nail their audition in the room, that's always a pleasure, because we are also working together, and that means I've done my job well, you've done your job well. Like, that is just great. So yeah, I think all those things are my favorite.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, it's like, it's so magical, right? When you're like, this is it, like when you see it.
Yeah.
And I love theater. I mean, I didn't grow up doing, only musical theater was really available in my town, but I was a dancer, so I still like loved the stage. When I started acting, I thought, well, I want to do TV and film, so I don't need to study theater, I guess, even though I love it. So I was taking on-camera classes, and then luckily, finally, I ended up at William Esper Studio. And it's such a great foundation. And I mean, the off Broadway plays I've done, I consider them like an actor's gym, because you really have to know everything and work on the fly, and really, and then you get to rediscover something each night. And but not everybody has a theater background, but I encourage it, even if you just there's like little classes, intensives. Like my first thing at Esper was a month or two intensive. But for those that are listening, what do you see? Do you see much of a difference? I think that people have the theater training versus TV, or what can they really get out of that, the benefits of it? Because I tell them, but they're like, I don't want to do stage. I'm like, no, but it's really helpful.
Yeah, there's literally no negative side to it that I can see. I think what's really important is, and not all theater actors have this, but I think what a lot of people with a theater background have is they have this scene study background that a lot of TV and film actors don't have. So that scene study breakdown, like understanding the arc of a scene and the way you're not just looking at the scene in front of you, you're bringing with you what happened just before the scene before, which you may not receive those sides, but you need to sort of, whatever environment, whatever happened just before this scene begins, you need to have that coming into this scene. And I think you often have that with plays, or even how they start. I mean, take any Shakespeare play. I just saw Hamlet in the park the other day, so I'll use that. But like, you know, oh yeah, it was so great. So when he comes on stage, like he's just lost his father. And that then informs everything about how he feels about the marriage of his mother. And I think a lot of people sort of forget to just really dive into all of that background, because everything is going to inform what you come to when you're just doing your tape of the 4 pages, 6 pages, 1 page, however many sides you're given. And I think it's a little bit easier to sort of have that mindset if you come from a theater background where you're like reading plays and you always sort of have this, I don't know, it's much more based on like the environment, where's the character coming from, because you can maybe see the whole story and you're more practiced in that. So, you know, not everything is going to be a Shakespeare play that you're going, you know, that you're auditioning for, but I think a scene study class can really help with that, and any sort of theater class can also help with that. And you're right, you don't need to be interested in being on the stage to do that, but I think you'll also see so many similarities between the work that you're going to do on film and even the scripts you receive or the scenes that you receive, and you'll see a lot of theater tropes, and you'll be able to apply all those tools. You know, maybe it won't be as big as you would do on a stage, but if you already have sort of the on-camera work and how you frame that for the, you know, when you're doing things on film, it'll be easy to, you know, sort of apply everything you learned to on-camera work.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, because first of all, I saw Hamlet in the park. Amazing.
Yeah, so good.
Oh, by the way, did you go this past weekend? Because I was there this past weekend.
I was there on last Thursday.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was there Saturday.
Nice.
Right before the day before it rained. Thank goodness, because
they had pretty good weather.
Yeah, and then Sunday it rained, and they canceled the show.
It
was so good. I was so enthralled by the performances and everyone there. It was my first time actually getting to go to Shakespeare in the Park.
Nice.
Waiting in line at 8 in the morning, and I live uptown, so I'm like, it's a lot, but it was such an incredible experience. Now circling back to, you said like nailing the audition and talking about scene study and, you know, the moment before and creating the background for your characters. From your perspective, what have been the top 3 things that actors should be thinking about when filming a self-tape or an audition or going into the room?
So, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is be prepared. And everything I just talked about with the scene study and really just kind of taking the time with your character, that all feeds into your preparedness. So it's not just having facility over the written word that you have, but it's also knowing who the casting director is that you're going in for. What else have they worked on? Especially if you are not given much information about the script, which often happens. You're either not given a script, you're given dummy sides, you have no idea who you're speaking to. But there is going to be so much context that you can get by looking at who the writer is, looking at who the showrunner is. What else have they worked on? What are the tone of the shows that they've worked on? Is this more going to be a comedy, drama, a dramedy? You know, all of that is really going to help you. So doing all your research, you know, everything you can within the time that you're allotted. So that is really helpful. And also being prepared just technically, you know, having your setup in your home, or, you know, being ready to go into the room if and when we fully return to the room, you know. But I don't think self-tapes are going to go away. So please still have your self-tape set up, like ready to go. You know, you can put it away, but put it away like so you know exactly where everything is. So you can whip it out in 20 minutes to set up. So that's sort of everything that we say prepared wise. Honestly, I can't even think of other 2 things. It's just all the different aspects of being prepared for the audition that are just really the most important. And then I would also just say, like, be sort of a genuine and normal human when you come, you know, when you deal with everyone in casting. You know, we just appreciate if you're not having a good day, you don't have to completely fake it. And like, we totally understand, as long as you're not being mean or sort of bringing anyone else down. Like, if you need a moment, if you're not feeling it and you're not the warmest that day, like, that's okay. Like, come as you are. Don't do yourself a disservice by, like, if you need, like, advocate for yourself. That's another thing I always mention, because I think people feel very powerless, to this like system of like the casting director and the actor. No, you have agency over your time when you're going in. We're all human. If something happens and you need a little bit more time, you can always ask. If we can't give you more time because we need to send a link, then maybe you say, I was only able to prepare the first scene. Can we just do the first scene? If it's fabulous, we will probably still send it. So I think, or we'll say, okay, you know what? If you have the second scene, why don't you tape over the weekend? We'll send this for now, and then maybe we'll send that. So always sort of advocate for yourself, come as you are, and just be as grounded as possible when you get into that audition. Yeah.
That was some weight off my shoulders, let me tell
Oh,
you.
we keep talking to everybody, like every cast
Yeah.
we talk to, because Amanda and I have been doing this for a little bit of time,
Mhm.
and I definitely, when I first started, and even now, and we joke about this because like, I don't know, I was raised, my mother was like, don't call anybody at dinner time, don't message them after 10 p.m, don't you dare call before 11 a.m. So even me like reaching out, being like, hi, I exist, and how are you, and I have a pet bunny, and also I book this, like, it's like even doing that every 6 months feels so rude, but it's not, because it's a business too.
Yeah.
And just like, any advice you have for, because actors, like, it's like, yeah, we're like afraid of casting directors, but we're collaborating, and it's like, it's such a weird, because you're like, I don't want to mess up
Mhm.
and then look bad and never be called in again. I don't know, so much happens.
Yeah, I think you've got to just sort of put those thoughts aside as best you can. And like, when you're reaching out, just keep in mind, like, this is a business relationship. So like, what are the business updates you have? Maybe with certain casting directors, you'll have a more personal relationship because, they were on your podcast or whatever, but I think it's context is key, so I think keep that in mind when you're interacting with people in person. Keep that in mind when you're interacting with people via email. We're all trying to do something together in a professional space. We are coworkers. And I think people sort of forget that and think, but we're all in this together. We all have a collective goal. And I think a lot of the time people think two things. One, I think people think we have roles that fit every single type of person that we've ever met in our entire life, and we're just not calling people in because we didn't like them. Absolutely not. We get maybe 5 to 15 characters per episode that we're casting new characters. Sometimes less, sometimes more. And sometimes they're super specific. I mean, when I was working on Iron Fist, they were very specific characters. When I was working on Mindhunter, they were very specific characters. When I was working on White House Plumbers, very specific characters. And so I think people have this in their head that we just have this unlimited sort of plethora of roles, and it's really just not true. So I think there are yes, there are a small amount of opportunities for a lot of people, and that really sucks. But that being said, when we have the opportunity for that person, we will often be like, yes, we've been waiting to bring them in for this, and we finally have the opportunity. Great. So that's just like the general, like, we're on your side. And there was one other thing I wanted to talk about, and now I completely forgot about it because I said 2 things. And it was that. I don't know what else it was. Sorry, I forgot.
It happens to me all the time. No worries.
Yeah.
It'll probably come back to you in the middle and just interrupt us.
I think so.
Yeah. It's important. It's important to remember that. I do have a question. You kind of spoke to it lightly about just mindset in general, because obviously our podcast is about mindset. It's about the community. It's about creativity. It's about, maintaining our tools. And that's also the internal work work, and then being able to show up, and I say show up and show out all the time, but right, to show up and show out. And I think about like what are some helpful tips for actors to maintain a healthy mindset in this industry throughout the process, from, again, starting from the beginning, when you don't know. I didn't know anything about the industry when I started. I didn't have anybody in the industry. I didn't know what it was about. It kind of fell on my lap by someone going, hey, do some background work. And I was like, what is that? I had the dream, but didn't know what it was, how it was going to be attainable for me. And I had just went a different trajectory in my life, and then it kind of fell in place. And, going from not having information to like just diving in anywhere I could to find information, workshops, schools, classes, all the things, and then getting all the materials together, and then getting an agent, and then going from non-union to union, and then going from day players to co-stars to guest stars. There's levels to this. What are some helpful tips that you can give to actors in any level that they're in right now to help them have a healthy mindset, or at least assist them?
Yeah. I remember what I was going to say. I was just saying that I know it feels like you need to update us every 6 months or whatever, but we have that email from 6 months ago. We have that roster of when you took our class. We have the list and the exact time you came in for your audition for us 5 years ago. So even though you may think that we do not remember or we are not familiar with you, that is the thing that has really gotten lost during COVID, is that you guys on the actor side are not feeling what we feel. We've watched every audition tape. We've seen every audition. We know the new people coming out of school. We know the new actors on the scene. We see the actors who we've seen for years. We know who moved to LA. We know who moved to Atlanta. We know who's in Virginia now. We know all of that. It's you guys who haven't seen us, and I'm sorry about that, but like, we've seen all of you. So I think people forget that too, that it does feel like you're putting these tapes into the ether, but they are actually going somewhere. They are actually watched by people, and they do actually go to producers, and it happens. So that was what I was going to say with that. As far as mindset, and I think this is something that we all struggle with just as human beings, is the competitiveness, the comparing yourself. I had a friend a couple years ago say, oh yeah, my therapist told me compare and despair. That was just the perfect way to put it. Like, we look at Instagram, people are only posting the best things that have happened to them. Of course you're going to compare and despair. Oh, I just bought a new house. Oh, I just had a baby. Oh, I just booked this co-star. Oh, I've just booked this guest star. You're only seeing people's best day. So I think it really, really helps to just take a step back and just say, okay, that's them. That is not me. And I just need to focus on myself. So that is really harder said than done, or harder said than done. Yes. Or easier said than done. But it's just what you have to do, because there's always going to be someone that's more successful than you. There's always going to be someone who you feel is ahead of you. And it sucks, but what are you going to do? You literally can't shapeshift. So I would say that. And then also, like, to what you were talking about, you had someone who was like, come on set, do this background work. You started building your community. And I think community is really so important to any aspect of life. I just watched a TikTok about how dogs live longer if they have active social lives. Same thing with human beings. So like, she's sleeping right now. My dog's sleeping. But
yeah, I have two as well. Oh my gosh,
yeah.
so cute.
So it's the same thing with human beings. I think the more you isolate yourself and the more lonely you become, it's a very it can be a very lonely and difficult industry. We know this. So reach out to your community, You know, that is going to be so important. You have your group of people that's going to read with you on tape and that you call and like meet people in class, meet people at the studio, meet somebody you're standing next to doing background work, meet those people you did the short film with, like go to the wrap party, do whatever you can to build your community. That is so important for every single industry, but especially ours. And also don't forget to do the same with like your friends, because you need a support system. You know, and if you need to take, maybe you're not networking, but you're talking to just friends, and that's so important. Like you have to be a normal person, not normal, there is no such thing as normal, but you have to be a person who's fulfilled socially in order to, I think, or maybe you could be like a very tortured artist. I don't know. I don't know why I was saying that, but I think it helps. It helps bear the rejection and the loneliness of the industry and all of that when you have this community support. So I think that's just, it's really, really important.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I think, you know, I've gone through the stages of imposter syndrome and like all the things, especially, again, I don't have anybody in the industry growing up. So yeah. I'm the first one to kind of break the trauma and generational paths that my family went through. And so it became a big burden for me. But also it's such a rewarding thing to do is to take ownership of myself, yeah. and to find my voice. And, you know, speaking of like voice and, you know, self-identity and just who you are, I feel like because this industry, we you know, again, you're not that character. I'm not gonna be Janelle. Janelle definitely cannot be me. And that's absolutely incredible. Yeah. And I think that we try to talk about that very often, because when I started, I kind of saw everybody as a competitive peer. It's like, oh, you can't get the job because I'm meant to have that job. And that comes from a very egotistical mindset. But I have learned, like you said, that this is a community, and the only way to move up and to find the joy and to be successful is to see each other as peers, as well as you and the casting directors, which is why it became so big for us to bring casting directors on and break that myth that you're like, we gotta get it right. If we don't, they're gonna hate us. What if we say no to an audition and they're never gonna call us again? Because I've had that fear of like, I don't wanna leave New York, because then if I do, they're never gonna call me back, and I wanna be available. And so to kind of all the myths that are kind of out there, as far as you gotta be perfect, you gotta get it right the first time. What if you feel like your audition tape is not your greatest performance? Right? Or even in the room, because I've had that, I've left and go, well, that was garbage, right? I prepared all night and did all the things, and I went in that room and completely froze when we were in the rooms. How, as my dogs are barking, if you hear them in the background.
You can barely hear
them. Good. They're very, very loud. I love them though. What is your advice for actors who feel like they have lost that chance? Like, you get that one chance, and then if you mess up, it's kind of like we feel like a stain on your brain. Oh, well, they messed up that line. That's it. It's over. They can't speak anymore. You know, those type of things. Like, what can you say to that?
There's no such thing as one chance.
Beautiful.
You know, there's really no such thing. Let's say that casting office never calls you back in again. Okay, that's one casting office. There's 10 others. And you know what? As soon as that casting office sees the thing that you booked from that other office on your reel, and they say, okay, you know what? Let me call the other office, see how they did. Hey, did you hear anything about them on set? How did they do in the audition room? How did they seem? Oh, they were great. No problem. We heard great things about them on set. And then all of a sudden you get called back into that office again. So there's no such thing as blowing it forever. If you do something that is unconscionable and like illegal, sure. But no, like absolutely not. If you offend the casting director or, hurt them, or say something awful, sure, maybe then. But again, that's only just one office. You're probably still going to get called in by a lot of other offices. And I think that's pretty rare that people do that, So even like, let's say we were offended by someone's rep, even if we don't like to see people from that office, we'll make sure we go through your agent instead of your manager or your, like, so don't quote me on that, but I just mean like, that's extremely, extremely rare that you will ever have someone that would like do something that's beyond repair. But I think, yeah, there's no such thing. There's no such thing as the one chance. There was no such thing. And you go and you book something different, and then that informs the next thing that you do and the next thing that you do and the next thing that you do. So I always say work begets work. So if you're doing the little off-Broadway play, you never know when your co-star's like agent or manager comes to see it and they liked you too, and they don't have anyone on their roster that's like you, or or their person that was like happened to maybe play some of the same roles, they just left to go to social work school, so they're looking for someone else. So I think it's just like, that's just another thing we say in our head that messes with us and puts these impossible standards, like perfection standards and yeah, this is my one chance standard. Like, no, I think, and I have to hear that too sometimes, like, there is no one chance. Like, we live every single day, like every day is a new day. Like, and I'm sure it's going to feel like it's the end of the world when you walk out of that room and you feel like you blew it and that you're never going to get called back in again, but it's absolutely not.
Yeah, I personally really appreciate that. Amanda knows this because remember we were in Woodstock and you had to help me like with my first audition in forever, and you had to like talk me off a ledge. Because it was really weird. Like, I was starting to get steam. I had booked like a show, and then the pandemic happened, and like the manager, he believed in me, but he was like, I'm gonna completely change careers. And then the other agent, that's a whole, what? She wasn't great. She doesn't like theater, and then whatever. So I went from like, we all have our separate stories.
Yeah.
But then also my partner, he's amazing, and he was on Broadway, and actually he's left the industry now because he did it for like 18 years, and he was like, I don't need to be part of the circus. He's like, I want to create my own. I don't want to be the puppet,
Yeah. Yeah.
But I was helping him all pandemic with like all of these auditions. And I was like, no, I promise I got them before. I had rep. No, I really. And then Amanda was like helping me with an audition because we went on that trip to Woodstock, and I had a breakdown, like, because I blocked myself because I wasn't getting it right, or all of this pressure. And I was like, and that's hard when you're not getting many auditions because you're like, well, here's my chance, I can't mess it up. And then it's like you just stonewall yourself. So I'm gonna keep this clip. Although things are like better now, but it's so encouraging, so important because we put all this weight on ourselves, and also like the nerves that we bring in. What do you advise you to actors with their nerves? Because I can't even tell you, who did I take a class with? I took a class with Julie Tucker. I love her. She's so cool.
That's great.
And like she did this cool Alexander technique class. Like, she worked with the Alexander technique person, and I was like, a casting director class that is with theater. This is like, oh, but like, I'm totally cool. And then something happened. I think the last time I saw her, I flubbed a line or something. And so then your body remembers, right? And Amanda and I are always talking about this. It's like I walk in the room and it was just like nerves, like the worst nerves. And, she was cool, but that's not good for like an audition. So I don't know if you have any advice for people when we're like, the nerves are, I mean, I know you use them, but you can't if you're like, I
mean, that's literally why I did not want to be an actress, because I was so nervous going into every single audition I ever had that it was really, really bad. And, I had just graduated from college where I spent 4 years with the same professors who knew me who directed me in every production. So if I messed up on an audition in school, they were like, well, we've had Joanna in class. Like, we know what she can do. Like, she can play this role or whatever. And then I went out and I was in the professional world and I was like, oh my God, yeah, this is the one time people are going to see me. And it was too much for me. I couldn't handle it. And I honestly, like, I have like bad allergies. And I was like, oh my God, well, if I sneeze, like, they'll think I'm sick, or like, what if I'm like not 100% like physically? And I always was like thinking about that. And I think that would perpetuate like certain health issues and things like that. Like, it really was affecting me in a very negative way. And that was why I had to stop and pivot. But that being said, like, I think now that I'm 10 years into the industry, even when I think of just running my first auditions and how nervous I was, like literally hitting record on the camera. And like, there's times we've forgotten to hit record. There's times our microphone hasn't been working. There's times the camera has erased everything we did for a whole day. Like, we have our stories too, like, I have a friend who didn't turn the mic on, so an entire day's auditions had no sound and they had to call everybody back. And you think like, it's the same thoughts, only instead of I'm not going to get the job, you think I'm going to get fired. So those are the thoughts you have. I'm going to get fired every single day. You think this. So we've all been there and we all are there every day. I think it happens especially with women as well. The imposter syndrome. I think it's just unfortunate, but it's very real. I think the only comfort I can say is that practice helps. Doing it helps. And also knowing that it's something that every single person in really every industry struggles with. We all remember the stupid thing we said on like the Zoom with the team where I said the wrong actor's name. Like, they were thinking I'm an actor and I was like, oh, you mean blah, blah, blah. And they were like, no, I wasn't thinking that. Like, why did you interrupt me? Like, that's happened. We all feel that there's someone above us with more power that's judging us. At the end of the day, does that person still remember correcting me on the Zoom? Absolutely not. That does not cross their mind at all. But I remember, so I have no advice, only to say it happens to everyone. And just going back to the idea of there is no such thing as only one chance. There, like, sure, maybe that's your one chance to audition for that director because then they retire the next day. But then you, 5 years later, end up writing a pilot script that's directed by their protege or something. Or like, you know what I mean? Like, you never know. Sure, maybe that was your one chance for that one thing, but then something else comes up years later. So yeah, it's just something you kind of have to do with yourself, like whether there's a certain exercise, a breathing exercise, whatever happens, that can help you, but it's really hard.
Well, yeah, I appreciate that. I think the reality is we're all human. We're trying to live our lives and do the best that we can. And I'm always a big advocate of, always do your best, but your best is always going to be different every single day based on the circumstances, based on what you're dealing with. You dropped your coffee in your shirt today, crap, and you have an interview. You're like, what do I do, right? There are so many different circumstances that can shift. And I think that it comes down to how are you choosing to move forward or at least deal with the situation now. And I've gone through and Janelle and I talk about many different techniques and tools that we've used throughout the process to ground ourselves. And that can change. I've done the breath work. I've done literally jumping in place. I've done yoga and cold baths and all the things, journaling, and I mean everything we could think of. And I think that the importance is just be open to whatever you need to do the thing that you love, whatever that may be. And then and that again, if you want to be a writer or an actor or a producer or a gaffer, just explore that. And the good thing about when I kind of discovered this whole industry is that I came from the background. I was in the background, so I got to see the intricate pieces. They put this whole beautiful final piece together in the cut to be on TV. Never knew what it was until I was there. So I've appreciated every single aspect of it. And go, what do you do? What do you do? What do you do? Oh, tell me more. And I was so curious. I was like a kid, just like, what, why, but why, but why? Mm-hmm. But you know, and it was a beautiful gift. And I think that we need to maintain that throughout our career, because we have to learn, unlearn, and relearn is what I've been realizing through this process. And with that said, since today is such a unique day,
yes,
a day in history, the strike has come upon us at midnight, PST. So I don't even know where to start there. Actually, I do. For those who are kind of figuring out like, crap, what do I do? My only income wasn't to be an actor, commercials, voiceovers, or whatever it was. And now we're literally at halts. I feel like we're going backwards into COVID, but we're the only industry stuck, right? The film and entertainment industry, but everyone else is still living their lives. And it's like, so what do we do? What's your best advice, or at least what you can help with for those people that may be kind of stuck in that mindset of like, oh crap, what do I do? What's next? Where's the money coming from? Freaking out. Yeah, I can understand that. When's the next job?
I mean, so I will say I was looking last night, and there are still some things that SAG will allow to go on. I think indie features and short films and things that are on that are independent, so not with the signatories of the AMPTP. So try to do any of those projects if they are around. That is what I'm going to try and do as well. Focus on like the independent stuff. That being said, that you don't get any money until you book it. And that being said, it's very little money. So file for unemployment if you can. That is what I have done, to be very honest. I think also know that there's probably around 200,000 to 300,000 people that are like, maybe not 300,000, but probably over 200,000 people that are with you right now, because a lot of IATSE members are out of work. A lot of Teamsters, including myself, are out of work. So I think there is a big feeling of solidarity. At least I'm feeling that from my own union in terms of them with SAG and with the writers. As I was walking my dog before coming on here, like I saw someone wearing the shirt, SAG-AFTRA supports WGA. So you're not alone. And my only advice is like, get creative, like use this time if you can. If you've been meaning to write, then write. If you've been meaning to see that friend, see that friend. I know it's a dire financial situation for a lot of people, so do whatever you can to, make as much money while not completely sacrificing your sense of self and like physical health. I know I'm gonna start looking for other opportunities outside the industry just to sort of hold me over soon. If we're getting completely honest. So yeah, just get creative. Like, I think use this time, or don't use this time, to take care of yourself in whatever way that is. Maybe take that class you've always wanted to take in pottery, like do whatever you can. And also have the sort of freeing thought of, this is affecting everyone. There is nothing I need to do right now There are things I can do. There are things I might choose to do, but there's nothing you need to do right now. We're all in the same boat. Nothing is happening. Things will come back. You know, that's the thing about the pandemic. We didn't know if it was the end of the world. We didn't know if we'd come back, honestly. We didn't know who would be there when we came back, and it was extremely scary. This time is a little bit comforting. You know, come fall, come 2024, there will still be an industry there, and you will still be a part of it if you want to be, you know? So it is a little bit comforting. Shows will come back. Shows are halfway done. And so, you know, we have people that are just waiting to play their same characters that they were already booked as, you know? So I think that can be a little comforting to know that the future is, while it's not certain, there are certain things that are going to happen, and TV shows will rise again, you know, and films will rise again. Like, we're going to see, there will be work again.
That's beautiful. And thank
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, and thank you for your honesty, really. I appreciate that. I think, again, I think it humanizes all of us in the industry,
Yes.
and how we are all in the same boat, but in just different types of boats, and we're going the same way, you know, maybe we have a direction. And I appreciate your candidness. And I think what I love about this industry is that there isn't an end of this industry. It may, and we spoke to Erica Hart last week, and she told us that someone told her that we're in the industry of endings, but there isn't an end to the industry in a totality. Like, this industry is never going to go away, because storytelling is from the ancient times.
Exactly.
And it's never going to end. And there's something so beautiful about this industry. And so if you have the passion, if you have the joy, and if you love what you do, keep going and keep doing it. And like you said earlier, find your community, be creative, do the things. Have you checked up on yourself lately? You know, have you been eating well, or taking yourself out, take that long bath that you don't usually get to?
Mm-hmm.
And I know you spoke about survival jobs when you were in college, and I know I've had a thing. I came from the corporate world, so I'm like, I don't want to go back. Like, I literally worked in HR and human resources. So I'm like, I don't want to go back, but I'm realizing, hey, I have that skill. Why deny myself a possibility of stability, still being able to do what I love and create it creatively, because I'm fearful of getting stuck when I already have the skill. Recognize what you're skillful at, and then use that. Go for it, because you'll find the joy in it. Yeah. And then when you're done, you just say, I'm done. I'm done. I can walk away.
You can always walk away. And I think also, it just makes me think of, like, you know, that relationship that you should have left a while ago. You knew change needed to happen or something. This is just something, unfortunately, that needed to happen. And I work in fashion. That's one of my artsy jobs, my creative jobs. And even today, the designer, okay, she's a creative, and she's upset because the people with the money, because they're so worried about the money and making more money, they're trying to make these weird cuts that actually affect the integrity of her product. She's like, I know it's a little more expensive here, but then, you know, we're not providing our customers with quality work. So she's like, you can keep undercutting because you want to make all this money, or like, you know, but she's like, but then I'm giving my customers something really like terrible. And so it's not just affecting the entertainment industry, this whole money thing. I mean, in the artificial intelligence, it's just, you need humans. Like, it's like we're artists, like, you need our soul. And so, I mean, I was just saying before we got on here, like, I literally have something booked Monday that I'm not going to get to do now, but I'm like, all right, well, you know, I was joking with my roommate because she does theater. I was like, well, I decided to just wait, you know, because then they can pay me my worth, you know, that's fine. I just won't. I was just joking with her, like, it's fine. That's great. Because then when we pick up, I'll get better residual checks than I would have. And, you know, it's just, unfortunately, it had to happen.
Yes, exactly. And I think it's just, you're right. This is a symptom of just the larger world as a whole. You know, this is not just happening in our industry. Other Teamsters with UPS are about to strike, you know, that could be the largest strike that they've ever had. You know, this is, people are struggling everywhere. And, you know, seeing that quote that came out on Deadline of like, I don't know how, you know, it was on Deadline, so hopefully the source was real, but they said, you know, we want to see writers losing their homes before we go back to the table. And that's, I mean, that is really what we're up against here. This is, you know, it's funny, I have a casting director friend who always says, every story is a David and Goliath story. And this is your David and Goliath story. Everything, this is, we are up against these huge corporations who only think of the bottom line. And every single, you know, my TikTok is very curated to my sort of socialist ideologies, but like, there is no ethical way to be a billionaire. There is no ethical way that these companies are, I don't know, and maybe I shouldn't be saying this on camera because I also work for these companies, but I think you've got to hope that these companies will continue to work in a way that is ethical for the workers. They are the ones, the actors, the Teamsters, the writers, the people in the WGA, IATSE members, they are all the ones making all of these things happen. And then other people at the top receive more of the benefits. It's just the antithesis of how we all think it should work. And I think also, like, there was a great quote I saw somewhere, like, I don't want to live in a future where the robots make art and human beings are doing jobs that are so harmful to them that they should be done by robots.
Very true.
You know? So yeah, sorry, I don't even know what tangent I went off on that. Anymore,
That's okay.
But yeah, we're in an interesting time, as we've been for my entire life, it seems.
If it's not one thing, it's another. I think you just gotta learn how to go with the strides. I've realized that we are evolving human beings. In every stage of our lives, we just evolve. And in order to evolve, certain circumstances have to happen.
Let's hope.
Yeah, right. So yeah, let's hope, right? Otherwise, we all implode and then we all die, and then who knows? As morbid as that sounds, but the truth, it is the truth. I know I always say that, but I'm like, you know what? It's a truth, and it kind of just helps alleviate the pressure. Like, we all will die, and I know that sounds again morbid, but what are you going to do with the time in between? Are you going to live your life? Are you going to choose the joy? Because life is about choices. And you're choosing an industry that is unpredictable. You know, even the A-listers we've heard, you know, that they don't know their next job. I met Vera, the one who's in The Conjuring. I love her so much.
Vera Farmiga.
Yes, I met her. She's as sweet as you can ask Janelle. I freaked out. I was like, oh, I love you so much, by the way. She's like, oh my gosh, you're so sweet. I was like, what advice do you have for actors? And she was like, honestly, just take it with like a grain of salt, because I've been in a position where I didn't know when my next job was gonna come. I didn't know when my next job was gonna come. I struggled for a while, and then you find work and you're consistent, and then you're not again. And so you just gotta keep going if this is for you. And I was just so invigorating and light to realize that no matter what level you're on, it happens. You never know, you know, you just never know. And so it's a beautiful thing to remember. And what are you gonna do with that? Are you gonna choose a negative aspect of that thought? Or are you gonna go, okay, how can I make grape juice out of this rotten grape? I don't know, but we'll figure it out. We'll do the best that we can, right? And so I appreciate that, and I'm sharing your insights, especially with this industry, because my mom is actually in Teamsters, but she's on like the union side. So interesting. I never knew Teamster was so big and broad, but she
my God,
huge. Didn't know for many years. And
I think it's the biggest union in the country.
It might be, because every time they have like school safety officers and all, you know, everything to think of. And I just find it's kind of incredible how it started. True story of Teamsters was pretty cool. Let me not go into that history, but I can go in tangents as well. Janelle, any last things? Oh, actually, circling back to just connecting with casting directors, especially a time like now, you know, we can definitely be working on our reels, maybe updating our headshots or whatever that may be, social presence. what is the best way to keep in contact with you? I know you said, we have the email from 6 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
We do. We have the roster. But, what if we have new material, or, we book something? What's the best way to connect with you?
Yeah, I think if you have the casting director's email, however if they've given it to you personally, I think keep in mind whatever they said at the time of them giving it to you. I think now maybe might be the time to not reach out. A lot of people aren't working right now, and I think it's just, yeah, maybe now you can, if you need to update your headshots, sure. I don't think spend any sort of amount that you can't afford right now, because you think, I'm a very conscious of how expensive this industry is, and how little you get in return for the things you have to spend money on. So please, please, please don't feel like you have to spend any money on that type of thing right now if you don't have it. So just, yeah, be conscious of that. And again, we're not expecting anything right now, so yeah, I think sure, work on your reel if you want to, work on your headshots if you want to, work on your play, your film, your pilot. Whatever you want to do with this time is completely up to you. But I think it's important to reach out when you have something you want to share that is really. One thing I will say is, yes, you are remembered for what you put in those emails. You are remembered for what you did in the room. Whereas we may not hold it against you in like a very detrimental way. If you show us a pilot script that has some, typos and really doesn't make a lot of sense and should have been reviewed by other peers and people, keep that in mind. I think show us your best work that's coming out of this time still. So yeah, just, you wouldn't show like a first draft to your boss of a, brief that you're going to file for for the legal team. You know what I mean? Like, put your best foot forward with everything you do. And if that means that you're spending a lot of time investing in yourself and you're not going to see returns for a little bit, that's okay. Like, I have to say that to myself too, it's like, if I exercised, I could probably better use this analogy, but if I was, going to the gym every day and I wanted to show someone my six pack's not going to be there on day 2. It's going to be there in 2 years when I've worked out consistently every single day, so I think just keep that in mind. Like, there's going to be little things that you're doing for your career. You're maybe not going to have an update. That's totally fine. If you send an update in a year, okay, great. Stagger the updates to different offices. So you have 12 offices. One gets emailed every January, February, like, you don't need to email every single office every single month, so yeah, just continuing of taking the pressure off.
That's great. That's great. And then one fun thing that you do, I just to leave on a lighter note, what's a fun thing that you like to do that brings Joanna joy?
I was, rock climbing for a little bit. Yes, I was doing that for a little bit in the, there's a rock climbing gym not too far away from my home. So that was nice and easy. And I did a lot before COVID, and it really helped me, confidence wise and just sort of mentally. It's really great to find something that you can't look at your phone while you're doing.
Yes.
So that really helped me. And sometimes I run. Sometimes I like run some 5Ks here and there.
That's impressive.
And yeah, I never, ever, ever, ever thought I would be able to do that. But turns out if you actually just try something, you can probably do it because you just have to try it instead of tell yourself you can't do it like your whole life. Yeah. And other than that, I love like hiking, going in nature. I like playing with my dog, like hanging out with my friends, you know, the usual stuff. I'm trying to think if there's anything specific. I love thrifting. That's what I do. I thrift shop.
Oh yes,
Oh,
yeah. We
Yeah.
I wear like the shorts and the tank, and I can just.
Yeah. Oh, I made a mistake
Fun.
recently of not wearing like shorts that I could like pull other pants over because a lot of places closed their dressing rooms during COVID. Awful. But yeah, recently went to the housing works and really just like got a whole new outfit. I was so excited. So yeah.
I love that. Thrifting.
Yeah.
Thrifting
Yeah.
is
And I
fun.
love like Facebook Marketplace, Buy Nothing. That's honestly, this is what I spend.
Oh,
like
yeah.
Poshmark. I like Poshmark as well.
Poshmark is good. Although I've made some mistakes on Poshmark. We won't talk about
I have too. I've
Yeah.
definitely bought some. Oh, they look great, and bought some boots, and then I put my foot in. I'm like, what is this inside? It's like crumpled and crumpled.
I have like an extra disco outfit. Remember Amanda, for my birthday this year, we went roller skating.
Oh my God.
I was like on a roller derby team. Like I love roller skate, but the problem was we went to a bar in Midtown beforehand.
Oh
And
no.
and then we went and we were okay, but it was just.
No, we weren't. Who said we? I was not okay. I literally hurt my wrist, and I had a brace for like almost 3 weeks.
No.
And then I broke my phone. So I had to get a new phone. I literally was having my phone when I'm skating. I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm cool. Yeah. And then I fell on my butt, and then my hand fell right on my phone, and my wrist broke my phone. Like,
Oh my God.
shattered into pieces.
Oh
And then
my
my wrist
God.
was just in pain. So I walked off smoothly, though. I would say, I'm like,
I
yeah.
couldn't tell.
I was like, oh
But
yeah,
it was fun.
Oh
in
my
my
God.
mind, I was like cringing, and my stomach was in pain. I was like, guys, I have to go home. My wrist was getting swollen by the
Oh
second.
my
Looks
God.
cute though.
Thanks, but I was like, we did a
70s
70s theme, so it was fun. We were like dressed in
Yeah.
70s clothes, but
Yeah, please wear like a helmet if you're doing things with wheels and maybe wrist
I
guards.
meant to bring the wrist one. I
said you
forgot
were
to
gonna
rush
bring
it.
them.
I did, and I had it, and then I forgot it. But lesson learned.
I needed something. Actually, my back went out after because I think I felt.
Oh no.
My back
Oh my
went out
God.
like 4 days later. It was pretty crazy.
Yeah, rollerblading, people don't know roller skating and blading. It's very hard.
Yeah.
But I have done my share of roller skating as well. In like a rink. I don't go on the streets.
No, I tried on the streets before. Like, I like ran into a parked car.
Yeah, no.
Stop the hill.
Not
I mean,
good.
there's so many potholes.
Not good. But they have roller skating at the rink in Prospect Park. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Won't be going there. Just nope, not at all. But all right. Well, we'll let you go and have your life. And I want to thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your insight, sharing your information, and really being, again, honest, candid. And I hope that someone out there takes it to heart that you are a human. You are advocating for us. You are our cheerleaders, and you are our peers. And I want everyone to know that, with casting directors. And also be kind. Don't be rude. Don't be mean.
Don't make it weird.
And same thing goes on our end too. If you have someone who's being rude or mean, like, that's not cool.
I definitely agree with that. So thank you so much, and stay tuned for the next episode.
Yeah, thank you both for having me.
Thank you.
Bye.
Goodbye.
What are your thoughts about this episode?
Drop it in the comments and let us know what you want to dive into next.
Subscribe, like, share, and click the link below to book a free consultation. And
We'll see you next time.